Apologizing deviance goes back a very long way. There's a chapter in your book called the Orleans heresy of, I believe it's 1100 or so. Can you tell me about that story and how like pathologizing or medicalizing deviance plays into that?
Yeah, so this happened in France in 1100. Point Europe was Catholic, and other versions of Christianity were considered heresy. And this was the first case where heretics were actually burnt at the stake for heresy. And this was all recorded in Latin. I actually tapped my colleague Jacob Doss, who's a medievalist, to translate the Latin, so we had an original translation for the book. But these two priests are involved in some deviant form of Christianity. We're not exactly sure what. Possibly they were Cathars or something like this. But they are, basically their group is infiltrated. Someone says that they want to join. And then once he's heard enough, reports them to the king and has them arrested. And they are tortured. And then they give these confessions where they say, well, actually, we're not just a different version of Christianity with different doctrines. We actually have sex with demons, and we give birth to demon babies, and we kill them, and we burn the babies to ashes, and then we're made to eat the ash. And this is where it gets interesting, as they say, if you are fed this ash, you're just a heretic forever. You lose your free will. You can't be a proper Christian. You have to be a heretic. And if you put yourself in their position, it's pretty clear why they're telling a story. They're being tortured, right? Yeah. They're looking for a way out. They're looking for a way of saying, yes, I'm a heretic, but I'm not really responsible for this. And these kinds of stories became fairly common in heresy trials. People saying the heretics have some kind of black magic, some sort of mind control they can use, and that's why there are different religions in Europe, and that's why not all people are Catholic. It's not that anybody would willingly choose a religion other than the Catholic Church. So it's not medicalization, but it's basically the same thing. In this case, it's magic instead of an information disease. But the enemy has some type of magic, some type of mind control, and that's the only reason why anybody would ever disagree with us about these things.
In the documentation of this, isn't there a lot of terminology like the heretics vomited out heresy and they were infected with heresy, rather than describing it in a more realistic way? These people came to think that this heresy was legitimate.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We don't think of 1100 as a century with a lot of medical science, right, or a lot of hygiene, but it is telling that the language that they use, they are still comparing heresy to a disease, and they're using the language of kind of bodily functions of excretion and revulsion and sickening to talk about what is really just a different idea about Jesus, simply a different idea about the nature of Jesus is framed in terms of a plague.
The way that the folks in 1100 talked about this heresy actually does remind me a lot of how the CIA talked about GIs, writing essays in favor of communism. They clearly could never have become anti-capitalists. They had to be infected with some kind of special germ or be manipulated with some kind of very elaborate and ancient dark magic or technique of psychological mind control, brainwashing. Is it kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I think we see a straight line from I joined the wrong religion because I was fed magical demon ashes to this woman became a spiritualist because she was riding a horse or something and her womb got tilted slightly to the left and now she's a spiritualist, to you've been infected with an information disease, or you've been infected with Chinese communist mind control magic, to you got the woke mind virus.
Yeah.
I think it's a straight shot going for thousands of years.
Something I noticed about the book is that there were a lot of instances of things that go back pretty far that are really, really familiar. Like, one thing that you talked about was that early Christians were seen as consorting with kind of evil spirits, doing dark rites, maybe even underground, using the blood of children to do nefarious things, being evil in ways that would creep anybody out. But then you talk about how later Christians themselves accused other Christians of doing all of the same things, and then even later than that, Christians in high church scenarios accused heretics of doing the same thing. And now I see people, whether they're Christian or secular, a lot of them are accusing like LGBT people or Muslims or kind of anybody they don't like of doing a lot of the same things. Like how to speak in the way that we do now about cults. So they're doing evil stuff underground. They're using children's blood. Like, why is this repeating?
Right.
All right, wonderful viewers. I have to pause this video at this juncture to air a bit opinion and a bit reactions. The speaker connects how accusation of evil acts, such as the modern woke mind virus, like the coronavirus or the Chinese stuff, as used to protect the current power structure. Now, my own reaction on this particular stuff. This concept is so important today. We see this tactics being used in modern politics. That is, it's being twisted. The same thing, but it's being twisted. If we label someone as an evil, mind you, if we label someone as an evil, it justifies any action taken against them, right? Once you label it, does it justify that any action taken against such individual is right? Look at how the term woke has been used to delegitimize entire group, used to the entire group by labeling something as evil. You can really rely on people to defend the good. It's an age-old tactics, and we are seeing being used right now to control the narrative and the manipulate the masses. The speaker still go further. The speaker argued that the fear of losing followers and the need for absolute control were major factors in the Jonestown's massacre. My own reaction on this towards what the speaker said. The real kicker here is the idea that freedom of choice was never really allowed. That is number one. It was all about control. But the moment people wanted to leave, Jones knew he was done. That is a real commentary on the dangers of desolate control on any group. We still see this with cult-like movement in politics today, religion, and even online communities today. If you don't follow the prescribed path, you are the enemy. This is as simple as truth. Please, my viewers, I will also welcome you to share your own opinion and your own view at this particular juncture. Let's reason together and reason along.
They're using children's blood. Like, why is this repeating?
Right. So the first incident that we cover in the book goes back to the days of the Roman Republic. And it's about the Bacchanalia, which were followers of Dionysus, the god of wine. And we don't know what the rites of this particular religion actually were. And at some point, they certainly probably did involve orgies and possibly